Hello, welcome to this special interview with Shingai Dzumbira, the new president of Warwick Students' Union. My name is Cam Hall, the head of news here at Raw 12:51 AM. It's fantastic to be back at the start of this new academic year. We've got so much coming up here on Raw this year as we move back with the easing of restrictions and hopefully into a much more normal year, not just at Raw, but across the university in general as well. Please keep in touch with us on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Drop us a like and a follow to keep up with everything that we're doing. And also make sure as well to buy your SU membership if you're interested in joining us here at Raw. There's so many opportunities to get involved, whether that be on or off air. £4 membership covers everything from training to be able to host a show, access to all the equipment. It's well worth signing up. So please, if you like what you see today, make sure you join the society and make sure you keep up to date with everything that we're doing. As ever, Raw News is the home of news here on campus. We'll be keeping you up to date with all of the latest breaking stories on campus, as well as discussing a lot of the stories taking place on a local, national and international level as well. So again, make sure to keep up to date with everything that we're doing here at Raw. Let me bring on, though, as I said, we are talking today to Warwick Students' Union's president, Shingai Dzumbira. Shingai, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
It's fantastic to have you on. You, of course, have been SU president now for nearly 2 months. It's the first week that we've had new students here on campus. How have you found it so far?
It's been exciting. I didn't expect it to be so exciting, but it's good to have people around, to be able to engage with students face to face. I'm enjoying the interactions. I'm enjoying the conversations I've had, and I'm excited for the time ahead, on campus.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot that we've missed over the last 18 months that it's nice to see coming back this week and hopefully for the year ahead. Now, of course, for many students, they may not necessarily know what the Students' Union is. It's something that they may see as very far-fetched, something almost maybe distant a little bit. So sort of break it down. What is the Students' Union and what can it do for the typical Warwick student?
Amazing. So the Students' Union is a charity, an independent charity organization that is student-led, student-run. What does that mean? It means in all elements, we have elected officers that kind of take the strategic direction of the union in various areas. We also have sports, so clubs function under the Students' Union, societies function under the Students' Union, and also things like course reps. So very soon you find out, if you're on campus for the first time, you find out about SSLC reps. That is actually the Students' Union. So we represent students in various ways. We run campaigns as well. So there's so many things that we do. So we're closer than people think. So often when people say, oh, we don't know what the Students' Union does, but they've probably had many interactions with that within societies, sports, through SSLCs, the advice center. So there's so much that we can do for students for every area of our life, of their lives, that would impact their student experience while at Warwick.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot that the SU can do for students. And of course, it's not just obviously a lot of the mechanisms that the SU have, but as president as well. Talk to me a little bit more about your role within the SU.
So again, the political leadership of the political leadership of the SU is made up of officers, and I'm the president. So we lead on that. I lead on that, and I do enjoy it. I think one of the things that I'll be doing this year is kind of working on becoming a more student-focused Students' Union. We're going to be getting surveys out. You're going to see us out in your departments a lot more, speaking to you, asking you what you think, engaging with you on various matters, so that we ensure that we are giving students the support that they require. So that's what we do. So we determine the direction the organization will take during our term in office, and that's what I do. I get access, which is interesting. I get access to the vice chancellor, academic registrar, various pro-vice chancellors as well, and provosts. So you find that we have access to people in high-ranking positions in the university, and that way we can make a lot of changes happen for you.
Absolutely. And I guess moving on now, of course, thinking all the way back to the spring elections last February, of course, you were elected on a manifesto and some specific promises made in there. I guess to sum up your manifesto in sort of about 60 seconds, perhaps, what are your main priorities and the things that you're going to be pushing for this year?
I think I mentioned it, but like if I was to give a summary of my manifestos, to become more student focused and student driven. And one of those things is like getting data, hearing what students are actually saying, making sure that we're focusing on what students want, as opposed to perhaps, like I could decide that I think students, like ice cream and run a campaign on ice cream without any data behind that. That's what we're trying to avoid this year, and trying to get a sense check on ground. What do students want? What do students need? Present that data before the university and have strong cases. Also, we want to increase, one of the things I want to do is increase our engagement, so that you have more access to our services and you know what they're about, and anytime you need help and the Students' Union has a solution, you actually know what that solution is and have the opportunity to reach it. So like if I was to summarize my my manifesto in a nutshell, that would be it.
If we can perhaps go into a few issues now, perhaps more specifically. So, of course, one issue that has been central to a lot of the SU discourse in the last couple of years has concerned the liberating of the university curriculum. What more would you like to see done with that this year?
So we're finding a lot of work being done in the SU. We've been working on certain structures. That is something that falls under the remit of the education officer. We've found that the university has now adopted an education strategy which includes liberation and diversity as part of their strategy, and that has been doing rounds in senior levels. So it's going to be excited to see what happens. And there's been buy-in in places where previously there hasn't been buy-in. So it's been exciting over the years to see that momentum gather, and then us developing structures that would make it, more efficient. Obviously, on a national scale, there are some legislative things that might come into play that may have an impact on the progress of that work. But obviously, we have to wait to see what passes through Parliament, etc. But then, as long as there's been buy-in and there's continued buy-in, as there has been at the university, those external issues wouldn't impact us as much. But I'm happy to see the progress that has happened in those areas, just generally.
Of course, another issue where we've made a lot of progress as a university in the last couple of years has been on the environment, and we've seen a lot of environmental initiatives, whether that be the decreased use of single-use plastics on campus and an increased push towards net zero. What's your kind of main focus on that this year?
So I think, again, a lot of the things that I want to work on are structural, making sure that we have an actual strategy towards that as an SU, because I think previously we supported good initiatives, but we didn't have a set strategy. So I think working with our DDO, and when they come into office, environment officer as well, environmental and ethics officers, we'll be working more on having a strategy which we would push forward, and also ensuring that we're holding the university to account to meet all the what's the word? Making sure we're ensuring that making sure the university is held accountable to the promises that they've made in this regard is going to be important through those structures. So working with the DDO, environment and ethics officers to push that forward is going to be important this year.
Absolutely. Let's now move on to a couple of issues that have been, I think, of particular interest to students in the last few weeks. So let's start off with blended learning. So the university have, of course, outlined their approach for teaching this year, which includes the retention of social distancing and face coverings within seminars, that lectures or any teaching over 50 people will continue to be held online. Now, there has been backlash amongst this from the student body. There have been, for example, the group Put Warwick Students First have outlined a petition that's beginning signatures in moving towards a more fully in-person model. You, of course, in the last SU election ran to have as much teaching in person as possible. Of course, there have been some students who have said that we should be moving towards, or at least keeping some of the blended elements from last year and not moving to fully in-person teaching yet. What is the SU's position on this? Does the SU support the university's approach, or is it pushing for more or less in-person teaching?
Okay, thank you. So I think if you remember something that I said just at the beginning of this interview, one of my aims is to become more data driven. We've just come out of a summer period where I think students right now, there's some who are still finding out what the proportion of face-to-face teaching they're having is, what proportion of online learning that they're going to be having. And that's important. We need everyone to know what they have. Why? Because we are planning next week to send out a survey to all students where they can tell us how they feel about the offer that they have. And what this will help us do as we collate that data, and if everyone kind of gets on board with that, as we collect that data, we're able to see the student sentiment, and then also, and then on a wide level, because you might find that through a petition, which we have been, we've received actually quite a few petitions, and it was with different needs. And that's something to understand when we're dealing with the student body, and something as central to everyone's experience. The one thing we all have in common when it comes to being on campus is that we're here to get a qualification of sorts. Our education is what unites us. So we've had students, for example, who are coming, who haven't been able to get access to the country because they're maybe coming from red list countries, and they had concerns about education going on or being given an offer that wasn't as good, or students afraid of coming into campus because of certain vulnerabilities that they had, or just general concerns about coming onto campus. And then those that rightfully had, an experience that they don't want repeated, that affected and impacted their mental health and well-being, learning just fully online. So we had so many nuanced sentiments, but now that everyone kind of knows what the balance of their degree will look like, we're able to get that data in and then present a solid case before the university. Because I think you'd imagine that data that we've collected, asking certain questions, we're able to make and argue a case for what students want, and that's at the heart of what we want. So in terms of what's the students' union's position? The students' union position will be what we receive, from the data, what students are saying to us, and we have been relaying that information. I don't want it to seem like we've been quiet. No, we've been engaging with the university, presenting everything that we've received, and pushing. And that's how, for example, with societies and clubs, we managed to ensure that even when they're using university venues, there wouldn't be restrictions applied to their activities. And I know some societies were rather skeptic. They're wondering, was it really true? And they held some events yesterday, and they found out that indeed it was true, that restrictions weren't being in place unless they wanted to. It was to the discretion of the society in play. And that's something we managed to secure. So it's not like we're just here and we're doing nothing. Where we're making progress, but we know that sometimes we need data, we need more data to present a certain case before the university. And we've grown to learn how to engage the university in an effective manner to get change made. And that's, I think, a big win for us. So in the next weeks or so, we expect to see a few more developments in that area.
Moving on now to another issue, and of course, as we're coming out with the easing of restrictions and increasingly moving towards a more normal life, of course, the cost of living is an issue that has been pronounced for students for many years now. It's one that is feeling increasingly pronounced, and many students potentially not having the employment opportunities they had before the pandemic. And of course, also recently with the significant rises in energy prices, there will be many students who are concerned that if their suppliers do go bust, that they will be potentially paying significantly higher energy bills. All of this potentially contributing to a significant strain on already very tight student budgets for many students. How will the SU support students with the cost of living, in particular with the energy price rises in recent weeks?
Okay. So there's certain services that I will highlight that we have. And in fact, it's one service, the advice center. I would advise students to visit the advice center with all those issues. Why? Because they're able to provide you with solutions and remedies that would work for you. In terms of employment opportunities, even in the past week, we've been working in the university to see in which areas we can increase employment opportunities. I know, for example, they were still looking for welcome ambassadors, etc. So there's still posts that are open on Unitems, etc. And because there have been, shortages, labor shortages in certain areas of the university, and the first preference often for these roles is Warwick students. So I would encourage students to also look at those opportunities. But the first point of call, if you have any issues, if you're thinking, okay, the energy provider that I also have is quite high, or maybe you may feel like, okay, the accommodation you have is just not suitable for you anymore. The Advice Center is able to help you with anything to do with housing, with cost of living. They are trained to do that, to support you in the best way they can. So that would be my key advice, because that is a service the SU offers, and it's free for every student. And when you need it, don't be afraid to reach out for help, because there is always help.
Absolutely. And it's important quickly to say as well, on the point of rising energy prices, the advice from the regulator Ofgem for any students who are affected, whether their energy firm does go bust, the advice from Ofgem is to wait until you have moved on to a new supplier. Ofgem will tell you that, and then for you to shop around for potentially cheaper deals. But as Shingai said there, the SU Advice Centre is available to provide more support for you. Let's move on now, I guess. Obviously, it is Freshers Week. There's a lot of new students coming to Warwick for the first time, and it can be a scary time coming to university. I can certainly remember my first week as so much fun during Freshers Week, but also very overwhelming, so much information all at once. So if you could give perhaps one top tip to the freshers coming in this year, what would your tip be? My
tip is so boring, but I think it's something that I wish people had told me. Visit the library early and get books out. Like, I don't know what it is about first year where they make you feel like every book you should get, you have to buy it when there's a library. And the very purpose of the library is to take out those books. Just go to the library, see what they have. Also, you have like a lot of like secondhand books being like sold in some books. I know I was a law student and we have so many books, like they have like a sale and things like that. So don't feel the pressure to always go purchase like a £60 book and then you have a £50 one and a 40. Just visit the library super early. No one's thinking about that. But now that I've said it, probably more people are thinking of doing that. But that's what I would say. Just visit the library early and get your books out before you start spending money on them.
If the library suddenly becomes crammed this week, we know exactly why, Shingai. Just one last question now. Of course, for many students, they may be potentially looking to get involved in the Students' Union, particularly some of the more political and leadership levels of it. For any student looking to get involved in the SU, how can they go about it?
Okay, you can visit our website. And through our website, you can join clubs, you can join societies. And most importantly, we have autumn elections coming up. So you can nominate yourself to run for a certain post. We have part-time officer roles open for mature students, for international students, for widening participation students. So we have those roles to represent those groups. We also have different education-based roles. So your reps in the SSLCs will be voted for in these autumn elections. So I'd say ensure that you nominate yourself. And if you decide not to nominate yourself, ensure that you vote, because it's important that you have a say in who represents you. But yes, visit our website. You'll be able to get all the information you need. Or you can visit one of our welcome events. There's also that option.
Shingai, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to talk to us today. Hope you have a fantastic Freshers Week.
Thank you so much for having me. I do appreciate it, Cam.
Thank you very much, Shingai. And thank you very much to you as well for watching and listening to this interview. As ever, please make sure to check us out on social media, for whether that be Raw 1251 AM or the news department as well on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Make sure to give us a like and follow. And as ever, if you're looking to join us on or off air at Raw 1251 AM this year, then please remember to buy your membership through the SU website. We can't wait to see you join us this year and take part in so much of our content that we're planning this year, including many more interviews like this, some of our fantastic shows coming back on air and going back full-time into the studio as well. There's a lot to be excited about on Raw this year. Thank you very much for watching.
Across campus, online and on 1251 AM. This is your student radio station.